The first alert came at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. That detail is burned into my memory because I'd been staring at my phone for the past 20 minutes, scrolling through social media instead of sleeping like a normal person. The sudden blare of the emergency alert system cut through the silence of my apartment like a knife through butter, that distinctive tone that makes your stomach drop, even when you know it's probably just a test. But this wasn't a test. My name is Sarah Chen, and I'm a data analyst living alone in a third-floor apartment in Portland, Oregon. 28 years old, chronically single, and, up until that night, blissfully unaware that my entire understanding of reality was about to be shattered. I'm telling you this story, not because I want to scare you, but because you need to know. You need to understand what happened, what might still be happening. The alert notification blazed across my screen, accompanied by that horrible, discordant tone that's designed to grab your attention no matter what you're doing. My hands trembled slightly as I read the message. Emergency. Alert issued. 2:47 a.m. PST. This is not a test. All residents within the Portland metro area must evacuate their homes immediately. Leave all doors and windows open. Do not lock your homes. Do not take any belongings. Proceed on foot to the nearest major roadway and continue walking east. Do not use vehicles. Do not look back at your residence. Do not attempt to contact emergency services. This directive is mandatory. Failure to comply may result in severe consequences. Do not question this alert. Leave now. I sat up in bed, my heart hammering against my ribcage. The message made no sense. Why would they tell us to leave our doors and windows open? Why couldn't we drive? And that last line, do not question this alert. That wasn't standard emergency alert system language. That wasn't how these things were supposed to be worded. I jumped out of bed and rushed to my window, pulling back the curtain to look down at the street below. The neighborhood was quiet, still bathed in the orange glow of streetlights. No smoke, no fires, no visible emergency of any kind. A few lights had flickered on in windows across the street, presumably from other people receiving the same alert, but I didn't see anyone evacuating. My phone buzzed again. Another alert. Emergency. Alert issued. 2:51 a.m. PST. Correction to previous alert. Disregard previous message. All residents should remain indoors. Lock all doors and windows. Do not leave your home under any circumstances. Stay away from windows. Do not respond to any knocking or voices requesting entry, regardless of who they claim to be. This is an official government directive. My blood ran cold. A correction in 4 minutes. Emergency alerts didn't work like that. They went through multiple levels of approval before being sent out. There were protocols, procedures. This was chaos. I grabbed my laptop from my desk and opened it with shaking hands, pulling up Twitter. The trending topics told me I wasn't alone in my confusion. Portland Alert was exploding with activity. People were posting screenshots of the alerts, demanding answers, sharing theories. Some claimed it was a hack. Others insisted it was a genuine emergency but that the government was covering something up. A few were already posting videos from their windows, showing the empty streets and confused neighbors. One tweet caught my attention. Anyone else notice the alerts are using different sender IDs? First one shows FEMA, second shows National Weather Service. That's not normal. I checked my phone's notification history. They were right. 2 different government agencies, 2 completely contradictory messages, 4 minutes apart. My journalism minor from college kicked in, and I started trying to verify the information through official channels. The FEMA website showed nothing. No press releases, no emergency bulletins. The Portland City government's emergency page hadn't been updated since last week's routine weather advisory. I tried calling 911. The line was busy, not surprising given what was happening. But the busy signal itself was wrong. It was too rhythmic, almost melodic, cycling through tones in a pattern that made my head ache if I listened too long. That's when my neighbor started screaming. Marcus lived in the apartment next to mine, a quiet guy in his 50s who worked night shifts as a security guard. I'd barely exchanged more than basic pleasantries with him in the 2 years I'd lived here. But I recognized his voice through the thin walls. He was yelling at someone, his voice raw with terror. "Get away from my door. I don't care what you look like. I'm not opening it. I saw the alert. I'm not opening this goddamn door." I pressed my ear against the wall, straining to hear if anyone was responding to him. There was nothing, just Marcus's increasingly frantic shouting, punctuated by the sound of something heavy being dragged across his floor, probably furniture being stacked against the door. Then, silence. The sudden absence of sound was somehow worse than the screaming. I held my breath, listening so intently that I could hear my own pulse, thundering in my ears. Marcus's apartment had gone completely quiet, as if someone had hit a mute button on reality. My phone buzzed, a third alert. Emergency. Alert issued, 3:04 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Critical update. Previous alerts have been compromised. Do not follow any instructions received before this message. The entity responsible for false alerts is attempting to manipulate your behavior. Your home is the only safe place. Remain indoors. Block all sources of natural light. Do not sleep. If you see movement in your peripheral vision, do not acknowledge it. Maintain silence. Help is not coming. You must survive until dawn. Trust no further alerts after this message. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. This couldn't be real. This had to be some kind of elaborate hoax. Maybe a viral marketing stunt for a horror movie or a TV show. But the timing, the widespread panic I was seeing online, the screaming from Marcus's apartment, it all felt too authentic, too chaotic to be staged. I moved away from the window and pressed my back against the wall, trying to think rationally. If this was real, if there really was something happening, I needed to gather information. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. I opened Twitter again. The feed had changed. People were posting videos now, shaky footage shot from their phones. One showed a suburban street somewhere in southeast Portland. The person filming was whispering into their phone's microphone, providing running commentary. Don't know what that is, but it's going door to door. It just knocked on the Hendersons' house. Oh God, they're opening the door. No, don't. The video cut off abruptly. Another video, this one from downtown. The poster was on a high floor of an apartment building, filming the street below. In the orange glow of the streetlights, figures were visible. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all walking in perfect synchronization down the middle of the road. They moved with an unnatural gait, like puppets being controlled by an amateur puppeteer. The caption read, "They're all heading west. Whatever the first alert said about going east, these things are going the opposite direction." I refreshed the feed. New posts were appearing every second, each one more disturbing than the last. Someone had noticed that all the moving figures were wearing the same clothes, generic business, casual, slacks, and button-down shirts, as if they'd been dressed from some standardized catalog of normal human attire. Another user pointed out that none of them were wearing shoes. My apartment's heating system kicked on with its usual mechanical wheeze, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. The familiar sound that I'd lived with for 2 years suddenly seemed ominous, predatory. I became hyper-aware of every noise, the hum of my refrigerator in the kitchen, the distant sound of traffic from the interstate, the settling of the old building's wooden frame. Another alert. Fourth one now. Emergency. Alert issued. 3:18 a.m. PST. This is Deputy Director Morrison of the Department of Homeland Security. The previous alerts were sent without authorization. I am transmitting this message from a secure facility. The situation is contained. Please remain calm and stay in your homes until we restore order. Military personnel are being deployed to affected areas. We understand this situation is frightening, but we have protocols for this scenario. This is not the first time it has happened. Stay indoors. Stay quiet. It will pass. Whatever you do not go to your roof or any elevated outdoor space. They are drawn to height. The Department of Homeland Security line would have been reassuring, if not for everything else. That last sentence, "This is not the first time it has happened," sent chills down my spine. What did that mean? Had this occurred before? When? Why didn't anyone know about it? I was about to search for historical incidents when I heard it. Footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment. Slow, deliberate, measured steps. They stopped right outside my door. Then, a knock. 3 precise raps against the wood. I froze, my entire body locked in place like a deer in headlights. Every alert had said something different about what to do if someone knocked. The second alert said not to answer, regardless of who claimed to be there. The third alert said to maintain silence. But what if it was actually Marcus needing help? What if it was emergency services? "Sarah?" A voice called from the other side of the door. It sounded like my mother. "Sarah, sweetie, are you awake? I drove here as soon as I saw the news. Let me in, honey. It's not safe out here." My mother, who lived in Sacramento, 3 hours away by car, who would have needed to leave the moment the first alert went out to be here this quickly, who had never called me sweetie in her entire life because she thought pet names were infantilizing. "Sarah, please, I'm scared. There are things out here. Let me in." The voice hitched with what sounded like genuine terror. "I don't want to die out here in the hallway. Please, baby, I'm your mother." I clamped my hand over my mouth to stifle a whimper. Whatever was outside my door, it wasn't my mother. It couldn't be. But the voice was perfect. The exact pitch, the slight rasp she got when she was stressed, the way she pronounced my name, with emphasis on the second syllable instead of the first. "I know you're in there," the voice continued. "I can hear you breathing. Just open the door. We can figure this out together. We can call your father. He'll know what to do. Sarah, please, I'm begging you." The doorknob began to turn, slowly, testing. I'd locked it, thank God I'd locked it, but the deadbolt wasn't engaged. I'd never engaged the deadbolt because I'd always felt safe in this building. What an idiot. I lunged for the door as quietly as I could, reaching for the deadbolt and sliding it home with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot in the silence. The doorknob stopped turning, a long pause. Then, "You're being very rude, Sarah. I raised you better than this. I drove all this way, and you won't even let your own mother inside. What kind of daughter are you?" The voice had changed. It was still my mother's voice, but the tone was different now, harder. There was something else underneath it, like a second voice speaking in perfect unison with the first, just slightly out of sync. It created a horrible echo effect that made my teeth ache. "Fine," the thing said. "I'll just wait out here. I've got all night." And Sarah, your door isn't as sturdy as you think it is. Old buildings like this, the wood is probably soft with water damage. It wouldn't take much to... I scrambled backward, putting as much distance between myself and the door as possible. My back hit the wall by my bedroom, and I slid down to a sitting position, hugging my knees to my chest. The voice outside continued talking, cycling through different people I knew. My father, my college roommate, my boss, my ex-boyfriend. Each voice was perfect. Each one knew things about me that they shouldn't, couldn't have known. My phone buzzed. Fifth alert. Emergency alert issued. 3:35 a.m. PST. This message is being broadcast on all available frequencies. If you are receiving this, you are in immediate danger. The entities have breached containment. They are learning. They are adapting. Each door they test, each interaction they have, they become more convincing. The original directive stands: leave your house. But the route has changed. They are watching the eastern roads. Go north. Stay off major streets. Travel in groups if possible. But do not trust anyone who approaches you first. If someone calls your name, do not answer. Evacuation points have been established at Powell Butte Nature Park, Forest Park, Lower Maclay entrance only, Mount Tabor Park. Military extraction begins at dawn. Repeat, military extraction begins at dawn. You must reach an evacuation point before sunrise, or you will be left behind. There is no more time. Leave now. The voice outside my door had gone silent. That was somehow worse than when it was talking. I pulled up Twitter again with trembling fingers. The feed was chaos now. Videos showed crowds of people fleeing through the streets, some heading east, some north, some barricading themselves in their homes. Police scanners were being streamed live, and the audio was terrifying. Dispatchers receiving hundreds of calls simultaneously, officers reporting hostile entities, military jargon about containment failures and acceptable losses. One post caught my eye. A video someone had filmed from the upper floor of an apartment building downtown. The caption read, "Whatever these things are, they're not trying to hide anymore." I clicked play. The video showed a major intersection, 4 lanes of traffic in each direction. But there were no cars moving. Dozens of vehicles sat abandoned in the middle of the street, doors hanging open, engines still running. And everywhere, there were figures. They weren't trying to appear human anymore. Their movements were too fluid, too boneless, like watching someone in a full-body suit filled with water. They flowed between the cars, some climbing over the vehicles with movements that bent at wrong angles, others sliding underneath in ways that defied physics. The person filming was crying, their breath coming in short, panicked gasps. The camera shook as they panned across the intersection, showing more and more of the creatures. Hundreds of them, thousands maybe, all converging on the downtown area like iron filings drawn to a magnet. The video ended abruptly when one of the creatures looked directly at the camera, its head tilting 90 degrees to the side in a single, smooth motion. Its face, if you could call it a face, was like looking at someone through water, features that shifted and blurred and refused to hold a single shape. I checked the timestamp. The video had been posted 12 minutes ago. The intersection it showed was less than a mile from my apartment. My phone buzzed again. 6th alert. Emergency alert issued. 3:52 a.m. PST. Final warning. Do not, under any circumstances, evacuate your residence. The previous evacuation directive was false. The entities cannot enter locked homes. They can mimic voices. They can manipulate electronic communications, but they cannot cross a threshold uninvited. This is not superstition. This is verified information from the containment protocols. Sunrise is in 2 hours and 33 minutes. They will retreat at first light. They always retreat at first light. Hold your position. Do not open your door. Do not open your windows. Do not attempt to leave. The evacuation points are traps. I repeat, the evacuation points are traps. They are herding you into concentrated areas. The casualty rate at the designated evacuation points is 100%. If you left your home, find shelter immediately. Any structure with a door, get inside and lock it. Do not continue to the evacuation points. Trust this message. It's the only real one you've received tonight. I felt like I was going to be sick. 6 contradictory messages, each claiming to be the real directive, each one insisting that the others were false. How was anyone supposed to know what to do? How was I supposed to know what to do? Twitter was equally divided. Some people were convinced the stay inside messages were correct, pointing out that the entities apparently couldn't enter locked homes. Others insisted this was exactly what the creatures wanted, for people to stay isolated and vulnerable, easy to pick off one by one. Arguments broke out in the comments, people accusing each other of spreading misinformation, of being part of the problem, of secretly being one of them, trying to mislead others. I heard a crash from downstairs, the sound of breaking glass, followed by screaming. Mrs. Kowalski, the elderly woman who lived on the first floor. The screaming stopped abruptly, cut off mid-breath like someone had flipped a switch. My entire body was shaking now. I couldn't stay here. I couldn't. The apartments on the first floor were clearly not safe, and if they got in downstairs, how long before they made their way up? The building only had one stairwell, one way out. If they blocked that. But the last alert had said they couldn't cross thresholds, that they couldn't enter uninvited. So why had Mrs. Kowalski screamed? Had she opened her door? Had she tried to evacuate? I needed more information. I needed to see what was happening outside without going to the window. The third alert had specifically warned against windows. I opened my laptop and searched for live traffic cameras in the area. The city maintained several cameras at major intersections for monitoring traffic flow. Most of them were still operational. What I saw made my blood run cold. The intersection camera at Southeast Division and 82nd showed a mass of figures, hundreds of them, moving in synchronized patterns. But they weren't moving randomly. They were organizing, forming groups. Some groups were heading toward residential areas. Others were converging on the major arterial roads. They were establishing a perimeter, cutting off escape routes. I switched to another camera. Same thing. Another. Same. They were everywhere, and they were clearly operating with some kind of intelligence, some kind of coordination. My phone buzzed. 7th alert. I was almost afraid to look. Emergency alert issued. 4:11 a.m. PST. Authentication code. Delta 7 November X-ray. This is Colonel Sarah Martinez, U.S. Army Northern Command. I am transmitting from Peterson Space Force Base using military satellite communications. All previous civilian alerts have been compromised by an unknown electronic warfare attack. This message is authenticated and verified. The situation in Portland and surrounding areas has been classified as a Class 3 incursion event. We have scrambled air support and ground troops, but we are unable to reach affected areas until dawn due to visual interference. The entities generate a field that disrupts optical equipment, including night vision, thermal imaging, and traditional targeting systems. We are effectively blind until sunrise. Current directives: 1. Remain indoors until 6:30 a.m. PST. 2. Do not respond to any communication claiming to be from authorities. 3. Do not leave your residence under any circumstances. 4. If you hear military aircraft overhead after dawn, proceed to your nearest open space, park, parking lot, sports field, and await extraction. Warning: several thousand entities have been counted in the Portland metro area. More are arriving hourly. Origin remains unknown. Intent appears hostile. Estimated time to containment unknown. God help us all. This one felt different. The authentication code, the specific military terminology, the admission that they didn't know what was happening. It read like a genuine military transmission. But then again, so had the Deputy Director Morrison alert. How was I supposed to tell which was real? I checked the time. 4:13 a.m. Sunrise was still over 2 hours away. 2 hours of sitting in this apartment, listening to God knows what in the hallway outside, in the apartment below, in the building around me. A new sound reached my ears. Sirens. Multiple sirens, coming from all directions. Police, fire, ambulance, all of them wailing in a discordant symphony of emergency response. But they weren't moving. The sirens stayed in one place, constant, unchanging. I pulled up the traffic cameras again. Emergency vehicles sat abandoned across the city, their lights still flashing, sirens still blaring, but no one inside them. No first responders, no drivers, nothing. Just empty vehicles and their endless wailing alarms. My laptop screen flickered. The traffic camera feeds glitched, showing static for a moment before resolving again. But something was different. The timestamp showed it was still 4:13 a.m., but the sky in the camera feeds was wrong. It looked darker, as if something was actively pulling the light out of the air. Then I saw them in the camera feed, not the entities on the ground, something else, something in the sky. Dark shapes, too large to be birds, moving in formation above the city. They were so high up that the camera could barely resolve them, but there were dozens of them, circling, waiting. My phone buzzed. 8th alert. Emergency alert issued. 4:19 a.m. PST. We tried to warn you. We sent you messages. We gave you opportunities. You didn't listen. Now it's too late. We're in your homes. We're in your walls. We're in your closets. We're under your beds. We're standing right behind you. Turn around. Look at us. See what you've become. My entire body went rigid. Every hair on my body stood on end. I could feel it, a presence, not just in the hallway outside, but in the apartment with me, in the room, right behind me. Every instinct I had screamed at me not to turn around, to keep looking at my phone screen, at my laptop, at anything but the space behind me. Because if I turned around, if I saw what was there, but I could feel eyes on me, watching, waiting, patient. The heating system's usual hum sounded different now, less mechanical, more organic, like breathing, like something with lungs was exhaling through the vents, filling my apartment with its warm, fetid breath. A creak from the bedroom, the sound of weight settling on floorboards, something moving, something that had been perfectly still until now, waiting for me to notice it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. Twitter was exploding with reports of similar messages, people claiming they could feel presences in their homes, some posting final messages. goodbye notes to loved ones. Some posts ended mid-sentence. I couldn't stay frozen forever. I had to look. I had to know. I turned my head slowly, inch by agonizing inch, my neck creaking from the tension. My bedroom doorway, dark, empty, just the familiar shapes of my furniture, shadowy in the dim light from my laptop screen. Nothing there. I released a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Just paranoia, just fear playing tricks on my mind. There was nothing. A face appeared in the bedroom doorway. It was my face, my exact face, but wrong. The features were perfect, the proportions correct, but it was like looking at a photograph that had been photocopied too many times. Some essential quality was missing. The eyes were the worst. They looked at me, but they didn't see me. They looked through me, into me, reading something beneath my skin. The thing wearing my face smiled, not a human smile, too wide, too many teeth. It raised a hand, my hand, and waved at me, a small, friendly gesture. Then it stepped back into the darkness of my bedroom and vanished. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. My brain was screaming at me to run, to get out, to do anything, but my body wouldn't respond. I was trapped in a loop of pure terror, my nervous system overloaded and shutting down. My phone buzzed. 9th alert. Emergency alert issued. 4:33 a.m. PST. We apologize for the previous message. It was not authorized. The individual responsible has been contained. Please disregard the last alert. There is nothing in your home. You are safe. The entities cannot enter sealed residences. This has been verified multiple times. Continue to shelter in place. Sunrise in 2 hours and 12 minutes. Military extraction at dawn. You are safe. You are safe. You are safe. You are safe. The repetition of that last phrase made my skin crawl. It was like the alert was trying to convince itself as much as it was trying to convince me. I heard movement in my bedroom again, the sound of drawers opening and closing. The thing that looked like me was going through my belongings, learning about me, studying me, getting better at being me. Twitter had new videos. People were live streaming now, broadcasting their final moments. One feed showed a family huddled in their bathroom, the father holding a baseball bat, the mother clutching 2 children. They'd barricaded the door with everything they could move. The audio captured their whispered prayers, their quiet crying. Then the door opened, not burst open, not smashed, just opened, as if the barricade wasn't even there. The stream ended. Another video showed someone running through Forest Park, one of the supposed evacuation points. The camera was bouncing wildly, showing flashes of trees, darkness, the path ahead. The person behind the camera was sobbing, mumbling, "There's no one here. They said there'd be military. They said..." A shape dropped from the trees above. The camera hit the ground. The video kept recording for another 30 seconds, pointing at the sky, showing nothing but the dark canopy above. The audio was worse than anything visual could have been. I checked the time, 4:47 a.m., still over 90 minutes until sunrise. I didn't know if I could survive 90 more minutes. My laptop screen flickered again. The traffic cameras showed that the entities on the ground were moving differently now. They'd stopped their organized searching. Instead, they were all standing still, all facing the same direction. North, toward Forest Park, toward Mount Tabor, toward the evacuation points. They were standing in front of every building that still had lights on, just standing, staring up at the windows. Thousands of them, perfectly motionless, their not quite human faces tilted upward, watching the people trapped inside. Waiting. My phone buzzed. 10th alert. Emergency alert. Issued 4:55 AMPST.
There is no military extraction.
There was never a military extraction. There is no Colonel Martinez. There is no Peterson. Space Force Base. Transmission. There is no help coming. We have been here before. We will be here again. This is not an invasion. This is a harvest. This is what we do. This is what we have always done. You built your cities on our feeding grounds. You constructed your homes on our territory. Now you're surprised when we come to collect what is ours. Every 47 years, we return. Every 47 years, we remind you who truly owns this world. You forget between visits. You always forget. But we remember. We always remember. 1978, Jonestown, 1931. The Forgotten Night. Look it up, you won't find it. 1884, the Portland Underground. 1837, the year without summer's end. Every 47 years, like clockwork, like a pulse, the heartbeat of something ancient, something patient, something hungry. Some of you will survive until dawn. Some of you will see the sun rise. And when you do, you'll find your neighbors gone, your families vanished, whole apartment buildings empty, entire neighborhoods silent. You'll call the authorities. They'll investigate. They'll find nothing. No bodies, no evidence, no explanation. And in 47 years, we'll come back. We're always waiting. We're always hungry. But here's the thing none of the previous alerts told you. Some of you are already ours. Some of you were ours the moment this started. How do you know you're really reading this? How do you know you're really in your apartment? How do you know you didn't already open the door? How do you know you're still you? Check your hands. Do they feel right? Check your reflection. Does it move when you move? Check your memories. Are they all yours? This message will self-delete in 30 seconds. The official record will show it never existed, but you'll remember, in your dreams, in the quiet moments, in the space between heartbeats. You'll remember. See you in 47 years, or sooner. We're always closer than you think. I looked down at my hands. They looked normal, felt normal. But now that the message had planted the seed of doubt, I couldn't be certain. Were those really my hands? Had they always looked exactly like that? The tiny scar on my thumb from a kitchen accident 3 years ago. Was it supposed to be on my right hand or my left? I couldn't remember. I held my hand up to my laptop screen, comparing it to my reflection in the black part of the screen. It matched. But reflections could be wrong. Reflections could lie. The message on my phone screen began to fade, the text dissolving letter by letter, starting from the end and working backward. Within seconds, it was gone completely. I checked my notification history. The alert wasn't there. It had never been there. But I remembered it, every word. From my bedroom, I heard my own voice. The thing that looked like me was talking now, practicing, getting the intonation right. "Hello, this is Sarah Chen," it said, sounding almost exactly like me. "I'm okay. I'm safe. Everything is fine. Everything has always been fine." The voice giggled. My giggle, but wrong. Like someone had remixed it and added extra tracks of other giggles underneath, creating a chorus of my laughter that made me want to scream. Outside my window, the first hint of light was appearing on the eastern horizon. Not the warm gold of sunrise, but a pale, sickly gray that seemed to leach color from everything it touched. The streetlights began to flicker and die, one by one, as if the approaching dawn was somehow poisonous to artificial light. The entities in the street below began to move, not scattering, not fleeing, just walking away, casually, as if clocking out after a shift. Some of them looked up at windows one last time, and I swear I saw them smile. Human smiles, perfect smiles, the smiles of people who knew a secret. My phone buzzed. 11th alert. Emergency alert. Issued 5:47 a.m. PST. All clear. The emergency has passed. You may now safely leave your homes. Emergency services have been restored. Please check on your neighbors and report any missing persons to local authorities. Thank you for your cooperation during this challenging situation. Normal operations will resume immediately. I didn't believe it for a second. Nothing about this had been normal, and I didn't think normal was coming back anytime soon. I kept my door locked. I kept my windows closed. I watched the sun rise over Portland through the camera feeds on my laptop, seeing the empty streets, the abandoned vehicles, the buildings with doors hanging open like slack jaws. When full daylight finally arrived, I heard sounds in the hallway, footsteps, voices, people cautiously opening their doors and calling out to each other. I heard Marcus's door open. I heard him talking to someone, his voice shaky but alive. But I didn't open my door. I couldn't, because I'd seen the thing in my bedroom, the thing that looked exactly like me. And if there was one of me out there, how many other people had been copied? How many of the voices in the hallway were real, and how many were perfect imitations? I'm writing this down now, 3 days later. 3 days of staying in my apartment, of ordering delivery food and leaving it outside the door for an hour before bringing it in, of keeping every door and window locked, of sleeping with the lights on. The news reported it as a mass hysteria event caused by a coordinated hacking attack on the emergency alert system. They said approximately 3,000 people were still missing from the Portland metro area, but that number was being revised downward as people were found at relatives' houses, hotels, or neighboring cities. They said the false alerts had caused several dozen deaths from accidents, people fleeing their homes, car crashes, heart attacks, one person falling from their apartment balcony trying to climb to a neighbor's unit. But they didn't mention the entities. They didn't mention the figures in the streets. They didn't mention the way the city went dark and cold for those few hours before dawn. They're covering it up, just like they covered up whatever happened 47 years ago. Just like they've covered it up every 47 years, stretching back to whenever this started. I looked up the dates from that 10th alert. 1978, Jonestown, sure, but that was in Guyana, not Portland. 1931, I couldn't find anything significant in Portland's history for that year. 1884, the Shanghai tunnels were being heavily used then, but there's no record of any major incident. 1837, nothing in any historical database. The absence of information is somehow more terrifying than any explanation would be. They've erased it. They've erased it all. And in 47 years, they'll erase this too. I still hear my voice sometimes late at night. The thing in my bedroom never left. It's still there, in the closet or under the bed or standing in the darkest corner where the light from the streetlight can't quite reach. Sometimes I see it in my peripheral vision, moving when I move, mimicking me, learning me, preparing for the next time. Because there will be a next time. The message said 47 years, but who's to say they'll wait that long? Who's to say they're not testing the boundaries, seeing how long they can stay, how much they can get away with. I've stopped answering my phone when my mother calls. I've stopped responding to emails from friends, because how do I know they're really them? How do I know I'm really me? Sometimes, late at night, I look at my hands and they don't look quite right. Sometimes I catch my reflection in the mirror and my movements are just slightly out of sync. Sometimes I start to say something and I hear my voice from the bedroom saying the same words at the same time, like we're both reading from the same script. The worst part is the uncertainty, not knowing if I made it through that night, or if what's writing this is just something wearing my face, my memories, my life. Maybe I'm the copy. Maybe I've been the copy all along, and the real Sarah Chen is still trapped in that apartment, frozen in terror, while I'm out here living her life, fooling her friends, her family, her co-workers. Maybe everyone is a copy now. Maybe that's what the harvest was, not taking us away, but replacing us, one by one, until there's nothing left but them, wearing our skins and living our lives and waiting for the next cycle. I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know who to trust. I don't even know if I can trust myself. All I know is this: if you receive an emergency alert telling you to leave your house, don't assume you know which directive to follow. Don't assume you can tell the real from the fake. Don't assume that the sunrise will save you. And whatever you do, don't turn around when something behind you says your name in your own voice. They're always closer than you think. They're always watching. They're always waiting. And in 47 years, or maybe sooner, they'll be back. This has been a Creepypasta presentation. Remember, the scariest monsters are the ones that look exactly like us. Stay safe out there, and maybe, just maybe, check your emergency alert settings.